We are live, Bay State running. It's been a while, ladies and gentlemen. It's the 2020 All-State Previews Indoor Track and Field here in Massachusetts. However, we have a special guest today that came. We have the legendary Hall of Famer, Greg Comella. Greg, good to see you, ladies and gentlemen. We have Greg Comella here. Greg, I brought Greg up because Greg was one of the reasons why I ran. I attended Zavarian Brothers High School my freshman year in 1992. I thought I was a football player until I saw what football really looks like. When I saw Hasselbeck and Greg crushing it. And then as we follow the stories, Greg was a multi-sport athlete, kids back home. Greg ran track, played ball. People don't know that. Greg can dunk. I remember that, Greg. Greg was a ball player, ran track, an amazing football player. Greg, you took your talents to the University of Stanford. After University of Stanford, we got drafted to the New York Giants. Yep. Won a Super Bowl. Undrafted. Yep. But you won a Super Bowl starting in, what year was that?
You're making me better than I am. I like it.
Come on, Greg. What year was that?
We won the NFC title that year. We lost to the Baltimore Ravens in the Super Bowl.
Lost to the Ravens. 2000 season. Yeah. And then over the years, Greg, we started doing Bay State running. I started seeing the name Abby Comella. And I was like, could it be? And sure enough, Abby is your daughter. So we wanted to bring you up to say, thank you for supporting Bay State running. But also we wanted to talk to you about the importance of what being a multi-sport athlete did for you and why track was the center of that. Because you did play basketball, but you also ran track, and that helped you out. And we want to just talk to you about that.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me. And it's great to be here. I love what you guys are doing. You guys are, you appreciate you pumping me up, but you guys are actually very legendary in our household and throughout all the high schools in and around town. And, sports has always been a very important part of my life growing up. And, I ran as a senior and in track had, it's great sport, very collegial. I always loved the story of the Scottish national coach, Coach Dick. So Coach Dick was coaching his group, and every once in a while he'd have one of the youngsters come up to him and say, Coach Dick, will you coach me? And with a name like that, he's always, he turns around slowly because he doesn't know the intended message of the person yelling at him. Mm-hmm. And so sure enough, it's this little 9-year-old, and the 9-year-old says, Coach, will you coach me, Coach Dick? And he says to the youth, sure. And the youth says, when? And Coach says, when I'm finished coaching my group. And the youth says, well, when's that? And Coach says, for heaven's sake, will you go sit down over by the bleachers and let me finish, and then I'll come coach you. So sure enough, the youth wants to run the 100, so he spends a couple weeks, coaching the youth, and they come to their first race a couple weeks later, and the youth finishes 8 out of 8, and has a huge frown on his face. And the coach says, what's wrong? And the youth says, I finished last. And Coach Dick says, no, you didn't. You finished in 18. He goes, you smashed the 20-second mark, and I had you pegged for 19. And she says, well, what do you mean by that, Coach Dick? And Coach says, well, in many ways, you finished first. This is the first time I've ever coached someone who finished in 18. And so sure enough, what do you think the kid now thinks success is the next time he goes out? 17. If he works really hard at it, comes in at 17.9, she's raising the flag all around the state. And that's the definition of success. It's about being your best, better than you were yesterday, doing your absolute best every single day. And so in a couple weeks' time, the kids, fighting to get to the line to race against the other kids. And so surely, people say to the coach now, well, now now beating the other kids has got to be the goal, right? Not if your definition, not if you run 19, because then you completely destroy your definition of success. It's counter to everything that you taught up to that point, you know, which is to do the absolute best you can. You know, you compete against the best. In, you know, for all these kids going out there to the All-State meet this week, it's so exciting because they get a chance to compete against the very, very, very best.
Yes.
And as it is in life, there's only going to be one person that walks away with the gold. Mm-hmm. But all these kids can be, you know, winners in that they just go out there and do their absolute best they can do. And I think that's the thing that I learned, you know, from running track and playing all these other sports is like sometimes there's going to be people that are bigger, faster, stronger, but you can be successful within by doing the absolute best you can do.
Greg, thank you for sharing that. I know you speak on behalf of the parents out there. What is the joy to see? There's another one coming because the younger one plays soccer, right? But to see Abby come in and then individual all-state title, she was part of a relay team that always wanted team title. As a parent, what is the joy to sit back and watch your daughter, one, represent the Comella name, and two, run at a high level? Because when I saw Abby, I thought about you and your brother Matt. Like, it's still competitive. The Comellas are still competitive years later. So what is that joy to see your daughter just crush it?
It's exciting. I mean, it's a lot less pressure than when you were doing it yourself. I can just sit back and enjoy being a parent and have fun sort of cheering and not worry about, you know, performance or anything else like that, because at the end of the day, and I think, you know, I probably speak for a lot of parents, is that we just want our kids to be happy and to see them out on the track competing and, you know, laughing and win, lose, or draw, you still at the end of it, you give them a hug, tell them you love them, and on to the next school assignment or activity or whatever it is. But all the coaches, you know, for all these high schools, you know, pour their heart and soul into this, into you know, coaching, and it's fun to see. It's fun to really be at these meets at Reggie Lewis Center because it's just very exciting, and the kids working their tails off. So as a parent, I really enjoy it.
You are a fan of the sport. You mentioned to me earlier, you said, Coach, I think there's going to be a meet record in the 300, girls 300.
Yeah.
Could we touch on that real quick?
I mean, look, it's all of these competitors are really impressive. I was looking at, I think maybe in the last 4 years, there may have been one individual each of the last 4 years run under 40 in sectionals.
Yes.
One a year.
This year we have.
This year there's 4. and that doesn't include, you know, a couple others who are right at 40.
Yes.
And have set, you know, other incredible marks. I mean, I was at the Division 5 meet on Sunday cheering on my niece, and there was a junior running the 300 from Gardner.
Pineda, Savannah
yeah, so
Pineda.
she's, you know, I mean, there's just so many good athletes, and you know, there's, you know, the girl from Beverly, India, who's a 400-meter champion.
Yes.
From last spring, and it's going to be a really there's a junior from Andover. It's just going to be a really exciting meet, and so I don't know. As a dad, like I'm just going to be looking forward to watching.
It's a good race. I love it.
These great
I love it. Kids, when you're going to do your pasta party, make sure we hit up Comella's Pizza. We have 12 locations.
We do, yes.
There is no excuse, kids. If you are in Needham, Dedham, West Roxbury, Natick.
We've got 2 in Newton, 1 in Natick, 1 in Wellesley, West Roxbury, Westwood, Hingham, Belmont, Concord. So we've got, you know, we're very likely in your town. If Winchester and Melrose, we're very likely in your town if you're wrapped around 128.
Greg, how can they? I know you're on social media. Yeah. What is the Comella social media account?
It's Comella's Food.
Comella's Food. We're gonna post that too.
Yeah.
And last but not least, what's your favorite dish?
That's a great question. I love my grandmother's meatballs, and I love the sauce. If I could only have one thing for the rest of my life, that's what I would
It'd be
choose.
grandma's meatballs.
It would be grandma's meatballs and the sauce. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, busy man, great athlete, better father, better husband. Greg, we appreciate
Thanks,
you
Coach
taking your
H.
time out.
Thanks so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dedham's finest, Zavarian legend. Doesn't get better than this. Thank you, Greg. We'll see you all this Saturday at All States. Thank you, my man.
Thanks a lot, Coach.
Thanks, Greg.